Welcome back, NoDQ Galaxy, to a brand new edition of the NoDQ review number 156. And I am Virtue, being joined by 4 other panel members this evening. So we have a whopping 5. Of course, Aaron Rift is here. Big G, always happy to be here, is back again. Steve-O from Chicagoland area.
What's up?
And Dr. Jargo, who is slowly rising up the ranks as one of my favorites because he knows how to respectfully push my buttons, and I appreciate that. Gentlemen, what's up? Big G, I'm going to start with you because you were smiling. What's going on, man?
Like you said, I'm always happy to be here. I'm back to be back in the groove of things, back on the NoDQ review. It's fall season. TV shows are back. I know
Halloween,
Virtue.
bro.
Halloween season. I know Virtue. You just watched the debut episode of Wonder Years earlier today.
Yeah, it was good stuff, man.
All right.
Martin Luther King Jr. Without giving you any spoilers, that's
other than that,
I recommend you watch it.
I'm glad. Like I said, always happy to be here, and let's get this ball rolling, baby.
Now,
All right,
Big G, you want to read that super chat for us real quick?
Hey, Karen, do you wish to speak with the manager?
No, I do not. Thank you for the $2.
All right. Super chatting already. Steve-O, what's up? How's your connection? How's your video? Looks good.
So far, so good. Do a little flashy theme there. Funny you mentioned that about the Wonder Years. I have that on my DVR. Wednesday is jam-packed on my DVR. AEW, Goldberg's Wonder Years, and then American Horror Story, of course. My Wednesdays are packed, but I'm ready to talk wrestling.
I got cable and DVR too. I just love old school stuff, man.
Hell yeah.
All right, well, welcome back. And Jargo, man, I tell you, we've been in a lot of videos this evening together, and now you're back on the review with the NoDQ Galaxy.
Happy to be here, and unlike the rest of these gentlemen, I have not watched the Wonder Years. I didn't know the Wonder Years was airing because I've been too busy watching the G1 Climax. So, that's life.
And speaking of which, that's portrayed as a sport in Japan, right? Wrestling.
Absolutely.
And Aaron said no more sports talk. So is he excluding New Japan talk from the NoDQ review?
That seems incredibly xenophobic to me, and Aaron would not do that.
I know. And, look, Kenny Omega came from over in Japan. He's an AEW, and that's our opening topic. But before we get to that, I'm going to go over to Aaron Rift because he's the manager, the Vince McMahon, the Tony Khan of NoDQ. Aaron?
Definitely not the Tony Khan.
Okay.
But maybe the Vince.
Oh, okay. That's interesting. What's up?
I'm doing pretty good. And there you go. I put up a G1 comment. That's our New Japan talk for the evening. We're coming off.
Wow.
We're coming off a very interesting episode of AEW Dynamite. We had a really big Raw. This was quite the week. We had some pay-per-view quality matchups on free television. We do not get that very often. Kind of reminds me of the 90s when Raw and Nitro would throw their big matches out on television to try and pop a number. So it's fun to be a fan right now for sure. And I'm curious to hear what everybody thinks about this week's television and what's coming up next. We do have Extreme Rules. Saturday night, we'll be doing predictions for that. I think Virtue will be at the bowling alley talking with all the casuals, but the rest of us will be here on the NoDQ channel recapping that. But anyways, we'll do that on Saturday. Let's get to the review.
All right, so the main event later, we're going to talk a little bit of AEW versus WWE from a fan's perspective and some Becky Lynch comments. So stay tuned for that in the main event. But let's kick it off with the hot opener topic this evening. AEW invades New York City, Arthur Ashe Stadium. Great, cool venue. I mean, it's not Madison Square Garden. It's not the Barclays Center. It's not downtown in Brooklyn or Manhattan. But Steve-O, since you're Chicago and you're supposed to be AEW land, they did a pretty good job in New York City last night on Dynamite. I did watch a show this afternoon. Jargo and I talked about it with Vito a little bit earlier. Bryan versus Omega was the opener. Jargo disagreed with me. I thought that match should have been the main event, and I get it, right? It's not the title match, the way that it ended in a 30-minute draw. But Steve-O, What's your thoughts now that I think Chicago might be the number 2 AEW territory in the land after what I saw last night? I mean, that dude, a lockup in the opening match popped the crowd. Take it away. Thoughts on Dynamite? I mean, I know we also had Britt Baker versus Ruby Soho, and we had Cody versus Malachi Black. What was your takeaway from Dynamite last night, which did almost 1.3 million viewers, consistently over a million now?
Thank you, sir. So, yeah, great show overall. I was pretty baffled that Bryan Danielson and Kenny Omega opened the show. I was like, what? This is the main event? And I was actually, like, on my way home from work during that match. So, like, damn it, I'm going to have to watch this later. But I did it. Well worth it. Hell of a match. I know some people don't like long matches going over 30 minutes or more, just ending in a tiebreaker, but I was okay with it. You know, you don't get that too often. Definitely not a WWE thing, at least not for the past couple decades. But yeah, hell of a match. I'm looking forward to it. I'm just going to speculate right now at Full Gear. We're probably going to get an Iron Man match if I'm going to take a wild guess, or some kind of specialty match with those two. But the more the merrier. I really liked FTR versus Darby Allin and Steen. That was a very good match. Crazy to see Steen at the age he is, and after he was what we thought was going to be retirement from the WWE, like after that Seth Rollins match. Crazy how he could still go. Darby's still looking like a star. Love the CM Punk promo. That was fantastic. Looking forward to see Friday. Well, I know some people will get upset, but, you know, results are out there, so beware.
Steve, go back to the Punk promo real quick. What do you think about him planting those seeds about someday I'm going to be a dick again? I mean, you know, mad, angry Punk. He said that, and wrestlers usually don't say something that they never do because they know business. So any take on that?
It's interesting. I mean, like in various forums, I see like people saying like, I'm tired of this happy-go-lucky Punk and just being happy. Where's all these pipe bombs? Where's all this trash talk he's supposed to be doing? I do miss that too. I mean, I liked the promo last night. I think that it's a good sign. I don't know what feud he's going to do this in, but yeah, we're going to get some pipe bombs down the line. I have no doubt about it. MJF, Brian Pillman Jr., decent enough bout. I was fully expecting MJF to win because he got that loss to Jericho at All Out. Fantastic show. I'm still getting great vibes off that show. So I'm sorry, New York. I still say Chicago's the number one AEW town. Finally, the main event, Britt Baker and Ruby Soho. Decent enough bout. Pretty much went as expected. I had no feeling that Ruby was going to be the new champion. But, you know, match was good enough. Looking forward to Britt's next feud. We'll see what happens with Ruby down the line. I'm not sure where she goes from here, but people seem to like her in AEW, so we'll see how it goes. Big G, how about you? What's your thoughts of last night's show?
I enjoyed it thoroughly. You know,
of course you did. Britt Baker was in the main event.
Funny.
My favorite.
Funny. Anyways, yeah, Danielson versus Omega was everything that I expected it to be. You know, it was just crazy that the crowd was literally, they were not silent at all for that match whatsoever. You know, I did not even realize that the time was going by that fast when Justin Roberts said there was only 45 seconds left. And that right there tells you they were telling a story in that ring. And I'm sure eventually, like Steve-O said, they can slow burn this till November to Full Gear. And I'm sure they're going to make it a 60-minute time limit match because, I mean, you can't do another 31 and have another draw. But, yeah, the whole show is good from start to finish. Obviously, Britt Baker versus Ruby Soho. Ruby was like, pretty much, look, here, WWE, I'm in the main event of one of AEW's biggest shows. I'm going to stick it to you guys. New York City is brutal, man. They booed the shit out of Cody. I mean, this from start to finish, they do not like that guy. I don't know if it's New York or if it's Cody. I don't know. It could be both. But anyways, FTR versus Sting and Darby. Sting looked good for his age. I mean, it was a good show. And like I said before, I'm not a guy who cares about demos and ratings and stuff like that. I want to enjoy a good wrestling show. And last night for TV was damn near perfect.
You know who came out with Cody and it doesn't help his cause? Brandy.
Yeah.
With all due respect to the mother
and
of his
CM Punk,
child,
obviously. I mean, I can see him, I guess turning heel in like next year sometime.
Dude,
he's got to.
He had like
you can see it. You can see it a little bit in him.
The eyes. Oh man, he wants to let that out. All right, Eric Jargo, I know you got a lot to say here with this because I even saw some people in chat agree with me that the women should have kicked off the show and the other match, Bryan. I got to get it's going to take me a while still. Bryan Danielson and Omega should have main evented, but Aaron, there's a couple super chats, so I'll let you go. And then Jargo can be the closer for this topic.
Okay, sounds good. And maybe he could touch on some of these topics also. Ernie Eastman sent in a $5 super chat. Thank you, Ernie. Says, what does it say about WWE with all of these people leaving and treating their talent like circus animals? Hashtag AEW, hashtag CM Punk. Well, Virtue, you're laughing. What's your take on that super chat?
I mean, circus animals, no business. Yeah, that's what they treat it like. And here's the thing, like WWE overstocked on talent. Now AEW to me is overstocking on talent. Now the good thing with that is when you get so many wrestlers, you're going to have good ones. You got to find them and use them properly. So like I said, pressure is going to be on Tony Khan nabbing all these wrestlers up because he's going to have to use them. But it's not a circus show. It's a business. Plenty of play. And I don't feel bad for wrestlers getting released because there's places to work.
Yeah, well, I think conditions are definitely better now. But if you remember when Bret Hart left WWE, he was saying that wrestlers are like circus animals. And once they get old and broken down, Vince sends them to the back and puts a bullet in their head.
That's their way to go back and relax and save their bodies. And they can do appearances and still make money. And Bret was okay, by the way. He made some good money after WWE.
Yeah, true. And Walter Cruz sent in a $5 super chat, says, opener was to hook casuals. I thought he was talking about Taz's son for a second. To stick around. If that's the opener, what else can happen? That's what AEW wanted people to think. I'm very curious to see the quarter hours. They have not been released yet, but when they are released, I'll have them up on the site. I'm really curious to see if a lot of people tuned in for that opening match and then tuned out. If the rating, if the viewership is low for Omega and Bryan, it makes me wonder if people were not expecting it to be the opener and maybe AEW did make a mistake. So we'll see how the numbers are, and if it's pretty consistent throughout the show, then that's a good sign that people are starting to sample AEW more frequently, and maybe they'll eventually be able to break their record. As I mentioned, really strong show this week, and the crowd was just one of the best wrestling crowds in a very long time for any promotion. They were just red hot the entire show. From what I heard, according to people that were there at Rampage, the people were very into the remaining 2 hours, which is a very good sign, in my opinion, if they can keep that energy sustained for the entire 4 hours. Now, Dwayne Atkinson sent in a $2 super chat. He says, have Inner Circle and Pinnacle disbanded. There is an article over on NoDQ, and I guess Jericho did want to break up the group, but Tony Khan was like, well, let's just have you guys lay low and kind of be on hiatus and keep the door open type of deal. And same thing with the Pinnacle. My guess is they're just not going to officially be teaming up, but if there's a storyline that calls for it, then they'll all form together and do something, which is fine. We've all made the joke that there's too many factions in AEW. Psycho Jet Black sent in a $2 super chat, says, can't wait for the boring Good Bros to leave AEW. Good brothers. Well, apparently Carl Anderson was not there, and I guess that's a minor spoiler, but he was not out there with the group for the match. Anyways, thank you for that, Psycho Jet Black. And I guess we could throw it over to Jargo now, and then we'll get to the last super chat after he's done. Jargo, if you want to add to any of those super chats or just give your overall thoughts, the floor is yours.
I have so many. So many thoughts. I'm hearing myself. It's kind of weird, right?
It's gone.
I think there's a few things that are at play here. Number one, if people were late tuning into the show and they didn't think that Bryan and Omega were going to open the show, well, it's kind of like training a dog. Now you're being conditioned that you have to tune into the beginning of the show rather than just tune in for the last 15 minutes, right? They have to recondition the audience. I think that plays into it. I do like opening the show with Bryan and Omega, especially if you're going to go to a 30-minute draw. If you have that as the main event, that means that you're starting the match at 8:27 and people are looking at their watch going, this is going to go a half hour. And before it even starts.
Right.
I feel the other thing that really plays into it is something that Tony Khan has said since the very beginning of AEW. If a world title is being defended, it should be the main event. While I don't think that the Ruby Soho versus Britt Baker match was necessarily a main event level match, it belonged in the main event spot with the women's championship on the line and no other titles on the show.
Interesting. And I just, Jargo, we were talking about, to me, those fans, they're not going to see, yeah, right. All the smart fans, it's 9:30. This is going to go till 10. But who's to say the match, if they did put Bryan versus Omega last, the match wouldn't have ended at 9:52 and they were going to have some type of thing after the match, right? We never know. I get the title thing because I've always been that proponent of putting titles in the main event spot too, because I know a lot of times WWE has moved their title matches around to get a gimmick match at the end. So I'll respect that opinion there. I don't know. I felt like obviously Omega and Bryan are your big stars, and at that stadium, especially with that reaction, and I'm old school. I like hyping something and threading that throughout the show and getting to that spot, and we just don't see that. And WWE's to blame for that too. Although when we talk about Raw coming up here, they did something interesting. So Aaron, back to you in that super chat.
All right, yeah, let me pull that one up here real quick, and then Virtue, you can give your final thoughts on it. Hep Connell sent in $5. He says, who said, did he touch you? Why are you wearing a big sexy shirt for? Damn you. You wait right here. I'm going to smack you too. I think I know the segment. I think it's Randy Savage talking to Torrie Wilson backstage at the Georgia Dome Nitro, and that's when he slapped Gorgeous George and Torrie Wilson. What do they say on Botchamania? You corpse. And Torrie Wilson started laughing. I think that's the reference. Correct me if I'm wrong, Hap. All right. Anyways, Virtue, go ahead.
So, yeah, I don't have much more to say. He
says I was right, by the way.
Okay, good. See? So you knew that, Aaron. You knew your history there.
If I could do the Randy Savage voice, I would have said it like that, but I can't do it.
You might be the one pro wrestling commentator in the world that doesn't have a Randy Savage voice.
I do not.
He just probably doesn't want to try. So, all right, here's the deal with Dynamite. It was in Arthur Ashe Stadium in the New York territory, 20,000, just shy, about 20,000 people. It did its third best rating of Dynamite history. It's a 2-year-old company. So, all the they're growing, this and that. They got all this talent. There's probably more to come. But at some point, you're going to have to manage these shows with all this talent. And yes, you have YouTube, but if you can't go from being on a big storyline, in my opinion, on Rampage and Dynamite and then getting pushed to YouTube. So Tony Khan's going to have to manage these talents. And I get it, right? You gave Bryan away and Omega for free, but you didn't, it's to be continued, right? You're planting seeds with Punk. Jargo and I talked about, he pointed out that his commentary work last week seemed a little heelish here and there. And then here he is basically mentioning at some point you'll get angry, Punk. I do like that kind of stuff. I like looking forward to the wheelhouse of what wrestlers do at their best, and they're giving us that. So, yeah, Dynamite gets a pass by me. I watched the whole thing. It's the fans that overreact, and there has to be boundaries of this is better than that. That's really what pisses me off.
Right.
It's not necessarily wrestling. So I think people that really, truly listen to what I have to say know that. But let's move on because we've got a couple other big topics. Yes.
Before we move on, we do have one more $5 super chat from Walter Cruz. Thank you, Walter. He says, if they saved Omega and Danielson for the main event, all of the marks would have been pissed about the ending, so they chose to open with it. That very well could be the case why they did it that way. But like mentioned earlier, I think that putting it on first, that kind of gave it away that it was going to be a 30-minute draw, plus the fact that they were starting off so slowly, they're going the distance. But other than that, I love the match. Really great stuff from those guys.
That was a New Japan Pro Wrestling match that happened in AEW. When you watch the pacing of it, the way it was structured, the way that everything was laid out, that was a New Japan Pro Wrestling match.
No, and I enjoyed Omega's matches in Japan. I liked the matches with Okada. I thought those were great matches.
And that's where I disagree about the people being disappointed if it went to a draw at the end. I mean, we watched Omega and Okada go to a 60-minute draw and people were losing their freaking minds.
Well, I mean,
it all depends on the framing and the context.
I'm personally not a fan of the time limit draws, but if they're done once in a while, I'm okay with it.
I'd rather have a draw than a DQ.
Well, there you go.
Likewise.
Or a distraction. Fun. Distraction finishes are the ones that drive me insane.
It's perfectly fine to change things up and do things different every now and then. Now, the Game is on 100 sent in a $2 super chat. Says, on Saturday night's main event, Hogan rarely wrestled main event as champ. I believe the reason for that was back then they wanted Hogan out first because the people that tuned in would tune in at the beginning and then the numbers would kind of drop off. So they wanted to make sure the champ was out there at the beginning of the show. I think that was the thought process.
It was also so Hogan could leave early.
Yeah, probably. Wouldn't shock me.
Even on the house shows, he was the match right before intermission. And a lot of times, and when I say leave early, that's not even necessarily a dig on Hogan, because a lot of times he was making a second town.
Right.
Also, keep this in mind. Remember way back in the 90s Raws, like the early 90s, 93 and 94, they'd open Raws with the main events. Like for example, Razor Ramon winning the IC title, that was the main event, and then it was jobber matches until the end of the show. So they could have had that kind of mindset for this episode of Dynamite too.
Absolutely. Oh, wait a minute.
Go ahead, Aaron.
Yeah, they just keep coming in here. Psycho Jet Black sent in a $2 super chat. Says, there should be a timer when the match is about to end.
Well, that's Justin Roberts, and it's just that the New York crowd was so freaking loud you couldn't even hear it.
Yeah, good point there. Mr. Tito's chiming in, talking about the 45-minute draw between Sting and Ric Flair, and that helped make him a lifelong fan. And that's a case where the 45-minute draw did work very well, and that did elevate Sting. So, yeah, it can be effective. But to me, there were a lot of time limit draws in the NWA period, and I kind of got a little tired of them after a while. But that's just my own personal taste. Like, I prefer shorter matches, but if you're going to do a longer match, it's fine. And when you got Danielson and Omega in there, you couldn't have two better guys to go out there for a long time, So it was fine for what it was.
So we're going to put Roman Reigns in the mid card of this show. Like, imagine that. Now, remember last week when I was saying his name over and over again, something happened because viewers spiked up to almost 200. So
Roman
let me get this up. Roman Reigns. It's like the YouTube algorithm for live videos.
Hold on. We all take turns in order on the screen of saying Roman Reigns. I'll start. Roman Reigns.
Roman Reigns?
Okay, you said it. That's all it counts. So here's the deal. He was on Raw. Okay. Now, we're not comparing. This is not the AEW topic, the Dynamite topic. That's going to be our main event with what Becky's comments about some things she said. But they put him on Raw, right? It was the Usos and Roman, the Bloodline, in the opening match versus the New Day. Obviously, we ended up getting a main event match as well. So I like that. So people, and yes, the ratings dropped off as they always do because nobody wants 3 hours of wrestling, no matter who's in the last hour. It doesn't work anymore. But they did pop a number from the week prior that they were up 120K against Monday Night Football. The demo was up almost 100K. So, that's good for Raw. But here's the topic. Is this a sign to consolidate the major titles and have the champs, the main champs, female and male. So let's say Roman was the undisputed Universal / WWE champion, and he had to work both shows. I think we need this. The shows need this because you got the networks, Fox versus NBC Universal. They're bickering over who gets what. Now, if you make more money. If you're Roman Reigns and you have to work both shows, you make more money. Or if you're Brock Lesnar, it's limited dates. But like, say Lashley was a champion, show up on both shows. You know what you can do some weeks? You can do pre-tapes, right? So Roman doesn't necessarily have to even be at Raw one week. He could just have a pre-tape backstage thing they did the week before. Big G, I think it's a sign of things to come. Like, they're not going to do this because they're all about the brand split. Let's have an annual shake-up draft, and we have more title toy belts to sell to the kids. But I think they should. What do you think?
Well, we've discussed this so many times on the show and other shows. Roman
made it a little different. Just the whole excitement of it. I mean, we're talking a shitty Monday Night Raw show against Monday Night Football. It popped a little bit because of that.
Well,
that's a fact.
They were going up against the Green Bay Packers and Detroit Lions.
People want to see fun. What do you mean the Green Bay Packers? They were in the NFC Championship game last year, and Aaron Rodgers is all over media. But anyway, you're not supposed to talk about sports.
No. Okay. All right. So, yes, they should consolidate the major titles, the women's, the men's, and the tag titles. They can keep the IC and United States that way that the mid-carders have something to fight for. But the three major titles, no? Okay. The three major titles they need to consolidate, and Roman Reigns should be their champion to lead them into the promised land. And you could have Charlotte Flair as your women's champ, and you could have Usos or Street Profits or whoever as your tag team champs.
Well, why not Becky is the women's champ?
Okay, you can have Becky or Charlotte.
Okay.
And see, that's why I think they have titles on both shows. That way Charlotte can have one and Becky can have one.
I know.
But like you said, they make their sales with the replica titles and the toy titles for the kids and whatnot. So they're going to keep on doing this. They're going to keep on doing the brand split. We're going to have a draft every October or whenever they damn well please. So, yeah, every other company that I know only has one major title for their superstars. WWE is the only one that has titles for everybody. So you have a title, everybody gets a title. So,
and you know what's weird, Big G? We're in there's been two eras of the brand split because they went away from it for a while.
Yeah.
But they had to go right back to it because it's
they
WWE.
Were doing so good, without the brand split. But I guess, they got too many people on their, on their roster that they need two different brands. So, even NXT, I mean, yeah, it's the developmental
2.0,
brand.
Get it right, NXT 2.0.
2.0, sorry. But they all have one title, they don't have multiple titles for multiple superstars. So, I mean, we could talk about this till we're blue on the face, but, WWE is never going to change.
Well, I'm going to go over to Jargo now because when you were talking, he was shaking his head. No,
about the US and IC title.
Jargo, your turn.
I will preface this conversation with my favorite championship in all of professional wrestling history is the IWGP Intercontinental Championship. You can see it right back.
I see it. Right.
It's a prestigious title.
Favorite belt of all time. That belt is gone. Good. We need to get rid of belts, right? We need hashtag no more belts. Let's try to get that trending. As far as I'm concerned, we can get rid of the Intercontinental title. We can get rid of the US title. I mean, all the mid-card title, there should be one belt. And that's it. One belt. There should be a men's belt, a women's belt, and a tag team belt. Okay. Because as far as I'm concerned, if you are there competing for a mid-card title, what does that say about your motivation? When they unified the IWGP Heavyweight Championship and the Intercontinental Championship, Kazuchika Okada was the only guy that was like, I don't want the Intercontinental Championship. Why would I want a title that's below the Heavyweight Championship? Like, this is the belt. Right. This is the only belt that matters. The rest of it is all just prop crap. And that's what adds to the prestige of that title. There's so many people walking around with so many damn belts that none of the titles mean anything anymore. And the way that you fix that is you eliminate belts, not consolidating and moving stuff around.
Yeah.
So
Jargo,
Jargo, go ahead, Aaron.
I just wanted to say, I like what you said. When I think back to the purpose of the Intercontinental title back in the day, I think what people liked about it was that it was kind of like the stepping stone for the guys that were on the rise, the guys that were working their way up the ladder would win the Intercontinental title prior to becoming the world champion. And then I think in NWA and WCW, if you were the US champion, that made you the number one contender for the world title. So it was clear, like, winning that title is like, if you get that title, you're well on your way to eventually becoming the world champion. So now it's just like something for a guy to hold, something for the mid-carders to fight, but it never really leads to anything anymore.
It's changed.
I understand. And that makes complete logical sense from a fan's perspective. I'm saying the benefit to the narrative of what they're trying to do, it would do them right to eliminate titles at this point.
Right.
Yeah.
Especially WWE because of the stupid brand.
I mean,
They might as well get rid of the women's tag title.
WWE has 3 of everything if you count NXT.
Oh gosh.
And I mean, just for the record, I watch Stardom, right? And I mean, like, there are girls in Stardom walking around with 3 belts because they have so many damn freaking titles. No more belts.
Yeah. No,
Hashtag no more belts.
All right, Aaron, we'll come back to you in a minute. Steve-O.
Yeah, I'll agree to that hashtag no more belts thing there, Jargo. That's definitely something. First and foremost, get rid of that damn 24/7 championship. I can't take that shit anymore. Yeah, I mean, like, I've always been a big fan of just one undisputed world champion. That champion should be able to go to any show he wants, be it Raw, SmackDown, NXT, 205 Live, you name it. But I mean,
you don't want the fans to go to one show feel gypped if they like somebody that's exclusive to the other show, like the top guys. And
exactly.
I just can't believe they just do that. But they've been doing it. Remember when there was Raw only pay-per-views, SmackDown only pay-per-views, and there was like how many a year, Aaron? Like 16?
Something like that.
It was
crazy.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, like, I'd say one men's world champion, one women's, one tag team. Like, it could be like one man, one women. I mean, unfortunately, that's the thing. Like, the women's tag team championship, that's the one title that could technically go to any show they want. And they were trying to do the NXT thing. Then they decided, okay, screw it, we're just going to make women's NXT titles. And yeah, I don't know if that's really necessary, but I mean, yeah.
So, Steve-O, like, just thoughts on how they did Reigns. They brought him over to Raw, right?
Yeah.
They had him in the opening match, and you thought you were that was it when that was over. And then there ended up being the main event, which, again, I'm not the fan of threading something through a 3-hour show. You're going to lose viewers. People are going to get tired. 2-hour show, that's a great formula. But thoughts on how they used Reigns on Raw?
Very good. I really liked it. Like, yeah, it was a nice opener. Again, I was fully expecting, kind of like with AEW, I was expecting the New Day versus Bloodline to be the main event. But they opened the show with it. It seemed like it was a viable idea. I mean, right now the NFL's been stealing their ratings. They got all 3 hours dropped to the number 6 through 10 spot. So, I mean, they had to do something. And it was a nice twist to kind of keep people throughout those 2 extra hours in addition to the opening. And we got a pretty damn good edition of Raw. I'd say, like, I enjoyed most of the stuff on there. And the main event was pretty solid with Roman, Lashley, and Big E. They didn't really do that great of job of selling the Extreme Rules pay-per-view. But again, I think it's more about cable ratings versus anything at this point. And people can get Peacock for anywhere from $0 to $10, depending on their means of doing it. But yeah, I'd say, like, probably having, like, Big E go to both Raw, SmackDown, and Roman Reigns going to Raw, SmackDown right now. That's fine. World champ. They could have some kind of rule that the champions, no matter what kind, maybe you leave out the 24/7 champion, can go to any show. The men's tag team titles, that's the first and foremost title that needs to be unified because, yeah, what a mess that is. But I digress.
I'm sure they have toys for all of them. It's just
unbelievable. Yeah. It's all about the sales. I mean, but overall, I'd say, yeah, just have, if that's what it takes to please Fox, NBC, Universal, have the champions go to all the shows and then just go from there. But yeah, they got to keep some way to keep the excitement going on. So that's pretty much my take.
All righty, Aaron.
Hold on. Let me see if we have any super chats here. I don't think we do. So I think you guys all made some great points here as usual about the titles, and I would not mind seeing a trios title. I just wanted to add that since there are so many 3-person factions in wrestling, you might as well. I know.
So we're adding titles now, Jargo.
Okay, Aaron, I want a serious answer to this question. Okay,
Sure.
Outside of Mexico, where has a trios title ever been important?
Nowhere, but that's the thing. It hasn't been done in WWE or AEW for that matter.
It
hasn't really been done
anywhere.
In American wrestling.
It doesn't work anywhere except inside of the world of Lucha Libre, where there's no freaking rules and everybody's absolutely insane to begin with.
Isn't that AEW right now?
Trios wrestling works.
You don't think Tony Khan could pull that off?
No more belts.
I mean, I don't think
more
WWE would. I think that they would probably just do the same match every single week for the titles.
Jargo, you ready?
They do that already.
Jargo, you remember how you said you were turning heel on the other podcast we were doing? So we got a guy named Jay Hunter here. Jargo is only here for New Japan stuff. Can we get someone else next time? No matter the topic, he goes back to New Japan. Yeah. Would you like to make a comment towards Jay Hunter?
Absolutely. The 6-man titles suck in New Japan too.
There you go.
Hey, Aaron.
Yeah.
I was going to say, how about this for a hashtag? No more belts except for 6 men.
There you go.
Man, you guys are just like pissing Jargo.
There's a New Japan hater here though. Jargo gives his opinions on everything. So I don't see why somebody's thinking he only talks about New Japan. There must be a New Japan hater in the chat. Aaron.
All right.
No super chats. Yes,
Walter Cruz sent in a $5 super chat, says, no more belts and please no more themed pay-per-views. I mean Extreme Rules with 0 Extreme Rules matches. LOL. Right. Get rid of the themes too. I agree with you 100%.
Yeah.
Now, Virtue, what was the original topic here? Was it about the belts or was it about Roman Reigns?
It's both. Because of Reigns was on Raw against Monday Night Football, it popped the demo, popped the number a little bit. And the fact that he was in the opening match and the main event as the Universal Champion, we should consolidate titles to get the big stars on both shows.
I've been saying this for the longest time. I think they should merge titles. And like Jargo said, get rid of some of the belts. We don't need all these titles. And I think it would mean more if the champion was on both shows. And it would be more of an incentive to try to win the title because you could be on both shows, thus theoretically making more money being on both shows. You get more bookings. You're going to get paid more. Just makes sense in a storyline perspective. So, yeah, merge the titles and maybe add trios titles, and I'll shut up now.
Yeah. And before we move to the main event, I enjoyed this not because it's Roman Reigns, but the fact that Big E, the new WWE champion, that might just be a transitional champion. We'll have to see. He got to work with the big dog in 2 matches on the same show. And if you want to elevate people, you got to do that. See, part of me liking Roman Reigns, knowing that was Vince McMahon's guy, is I'm sitting here thinking, if this guy can work and help build new stars, now that's on Vince McMahon, that's on WWE, but I'm excited with this title run now by Roman because I want to see when it's all said and done and he's ready to drop the title, I want to see new people build. I want to see Big E get a shot. Karrion Kross, I mean, we don't know what's going to happen. Braun Breaker, I know you don't like that name, Aaron. Maybe Roman can be the guy to help get the next superstar over. Isn't that what wrestling has always been about? Passing the torch. Hey, Jargo, New Japan. Don't they always pass the torch when it's time? From Tanahashi to Okada, then Naito came in, and I'm gonna talk about New Japan more because when I see people in the chat, I know how to push their buttons. But I mean, isn't that how wrestling is supposed to be done?
Yeah, I mean, in an ideal context, that's the way it's supposed to work, right? I mean, the
torch.
The thing that I worry about, and we see it in AEW right now, and it's been my argument against putting the title on Hangman Page, is you run into the Sting issue back in WCW, right? Where they built Sting up to finally be that guy to take the title from Flair. And then they didn't have any opponents for Sting once he took the title. And that's kind of my fear when I look at that SmackDown roster, as we're just feeding people to Roman Reigns. There's got to be somebody left to take the title from Roman, and then there have to be, challengers to that opponent as well. And I'm just not seeing that when I look at the SmackDown roster.
Well, we got to see how this NXT 2.0 develops new stars. But I mean, I know that doesn't happen overnight. Because back in the day, there was NWA, there was territories, and wrestlers could rotate out of territories and freshen things up for the main event scene. And it's not like that really anymore.
Nobody is fresh anymore. They try to get everybody on every TV show. And when people talk about AEW's overbloated roster, I'm cool with that. The Young Bucks weren't on the show last night. The Lucha Bros weren't on the show last night. Miro wasn't on the show last night. I mean, if we got to rotate people, that just keeps people fresher and it keeps the matchups fresher. So I feel like that's
we're not seeing the same matchup every single week on Dynamite or Rampage.
Yep.
So
yeah.
Main event time.
Virtue. Elliot Wilson wants to be on one of these streams.
Well, tell him to send the audition tape. And when we say audition tape, we want to make sure that you have a good quality video and sound and this and that. But where do they send it, Aaron?
NoDQMISC@gmail.com.
Yep. And then complaints go to there as well about me. Apologies and retractions go to NoDQVirtue@gmail.com. So there's a lot to replay the video and write all that information down.
Have you ever gotten any apologies?
Yeah. And then I'll unblock people on Twitter. Yeah. Because they
noble.
I mean, their other option is to create a burner account, but that's a lot of work for some people.
Some people make a lot of them.
I'm usually keen on that. All right.
Free time.
Main event time. And I'm going to tag it AEW versus WWE. So before we get to that part of it, let's go around the horn here and talk about Becky Lynch's comments.
All right, real quick. Psycho Jet Black sent in a $2 super chat. Says Braun Breaker versus Roman Reigns at WrestleMania 40. What do you think, Virtue?
Well, that's plenty of time to develop him by then, and Roman will be, putting people over at that point in his career. Why not?
Yeah,
right. Reach for the stars.
40, I think, is a possibility.
Anybody else comment on that?
I wonder if Roman Reigns is still around by WrestleMania 40 or if he's officially gone full on Hollywood like his cousin.
Or
I would say full on Hollywood.
Or does he
Probably
go
the
all
Hollywood route?
I mean, he was in a Fast and the Furious spinoff, although it was a minor role. It was a major fighting scene at the end. That's a big deal.
And I heard that they're making a sequel, and he's been cast in that one as well. So
there you go. He's been on a couple of TV shows and stuff already. So
Big G, since you're talking, you'll speak on this first. So before we talk about the apples to oranges of AEW versus WWE, that's my new favorite thing now, is doing the little emoticon things that look like an apple and an orange for Twitter. Becky's comments, stories versus wrestling. Okay, look, I can't wait to listen to Jargo on this one. But Big G, stories versus wrestling. You know me, I'm about the stories, right? If a match, as long as when the payoff happens at the pay-per-view, the match isn't the total shits, it doesn't have to be the greatest match ever. That's me, sports entertainment guy. What's your thoughts here? We're talking to Becky Lynch, remember? Because she said it, whether in character or shoot, who cares? She said it. Stories versus wrestling. She chooses. People remember stories more.
Exactly. I'm lost for words here. Anyway, all right.
You want to come back to you?
Yeah, come back to me because I'm
Steve-O.
Okay, sure. So, very good point made there. Look at some of the best characters in wrestling. Like some of the most you could ask a random stranger on the street that probably doesn't watch wrestling. Hey, name a wrestler. They'll either say Hulk Hogan or Stone Cold Steve Austin or The Rock, or maybe even I don't know.
John Cena, maybe?
Yeah, John Cena, especially with his Hollywood stuff. So, they'll name people like that have more of the characters, and they won't name too many people like, I don't know, Ricky Steamboat. Probably not going to be too many people's first answers, for example. But, you need both. You definitely need both with wrestling. I'd say, some of the favorite moments of wrestling are probably the stories. I mean, the highest rated segments in wrestling are the stories like Rock, This Is Your Life, one of the highest rated segments ever on Raw.
Right.
I mean, you got some, I don't know. I see where she's coming from, but I mean, you need some of those badass wrestling moments, and you got to have quality wrestling. Yeah.
Steve-O, you got to remember, too, she's speaking as a WWE employee who stresses that more than wrestling against who's the competition, the wrestling promotion. CM Punk keeps saying pro wrestling is back in New York. I mean, they're really making the line in the sand there. So Becky's sticking up for her company's vision. Yeah. You know, that's what they do over there.
Yeah, it makes sense. I mean, even Seth Rollins said, like, yeah, the best wrestling company in the world is the WWE. Said like a statement like that, you know. They're always going to defend the company, and they're going to go with what's best for them, especially if they're like in a high position in the card or whatever. I mean, maybe Becky will say her best match ever was beating Bianca Belair in under a minute at the SummerSlam, for if they're going to give her the good money. But I mean, overall, I mean, you could just, I don't know. Both are needed for wrestling. But
so,
I mean,
okay.
Yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
Well, no, I was going to go over to Jargo here because Jargo, what draws more money in the grand scheme of things, stories or wrestling matches?
Yes.
Both. Is that what you mean? Okay, well, it's your turn. Go.
I agree with our friend Walter Cruz in the chat that made the comment that the wrestling match should tell the story. And then somebody else, Dr. NXT Scorpio, talking about the Undertaker's Mania streak and what a great story it was, depending on who he was facing. No, depending on the quality of the match and the story that they told inside of the match. Like when you go back and you watch those Shawn Michaels versus Undertaker, Triple H versus Undertaker matches from WrestleMania, they're incredible matches, but they tell the entire story inside of the match, right? I mean, like,
that's true.
To me, I think Becky was absolutely just full on in character and saying whatever she knew was going to get her heat, especially when her wrestling is what actually got her over with the audience to begin with.
That's a good point. But you say that with Becky, and I know, you know, she was thrown out there, you know, in the same time frame as Charlotte's, the Sasha Banks, the Baileys, but what really got Becky over is the blood on the face, an accident, that whole like Stone Cold Becky. Isn't that what really got her over, though?
I think that's what forced WWE to turn her back face. But the people were already wanting to cheer her as it was.
It was kind of like the Malachi Black and Cody thing, you know, where the fans were just like, no. This is not how this is going to be. You are not turning Becky Lynch heel. We like her too much. That's what really started the entire thing. Kind of like, you know, oh, Cody's the baby face and Malachi Black is the heel. And New York was like, nope, not tonight.
Right.
Well, like I said, Brandy came out with her. All right. Anything else you want to add on that, Jargo?
No, I mean, I think that's the honest to God answer.
Part,
I mean, because just to be a dick, I'm going to take it back to New Japan Pro Wrestling, right?
Do it, because we need, look, and I don't care what anybody says in the chat, we need versatility here. It's not like we're talking Impact Wrestling, Aaron.
Right? I mean, but the simple point, or you can go watch some AAA, right? Watch wrestling in a different language that you don't understand. You can still get the freaking story if the match is done right.
Right.
Good point.
All right, that is a good point, because
Aaron, over to you. Big G,
there's plenty of good foreign films that have subtitles. You can still enjoy them if the actors are getting their point across through visuals and their dialogue. Even if you don't understand what they're saying, the tone of their dialogue can make a difference. And I think with wrestling, there's so many things you can do. There's no one thing to tell a good story. There's facial expressions, the moves, obviously, and playing to the crowd. Hulk Hogan did a great job of that. Like, there's different ways to tell a great story. And I think the best ones know how to use a little bit of everything, put it all together. And that's how you know you have a really great story, when you can take all those different things. You know, like a great television show or a great movie is going to have everything up to par, whether it's the acting or the lighting or the editing. Like everything put together is what really makes it great. It's not just any one specific thing. Like you could have a great actor, but if the script is terrible, then the whole thing just kind of falls apart. So you got to have everything to really make it into one nice package. So that's my take on it. It's not any one thing. And I think Becky was, like Jargo said, just trying to push buttons, knowing that comment will get some people upset. And hey, she's a heel right now. So mission accomplished.
Yep. And she did main event WrestleMania. Any super chats, Aaron, to catch up on? I thought I saw one pop in there, but
we did. Walter Cruz sent in a $2 super chat. Says Stone Cold Steve Austin versus Vince McMahon, best story ever told, except for WrestleMania X7. Yeah. Well, that's certainly one of the top ones in my opinion. And I loved Stone Cold Steve Austin and Bret Hart. That's one of my all-time favorite ones. And that was just everything was great about it. The promos were great. The character development of Austin was great. The double heel turn was great. The match they had at WrestleMania and Survivor Series, those matches were great. Just everything came into place. All the stars aligned. And that's a perfect example of a great story. All the things that they did throughout that entire feud.
Big G, stories versus wrestling. Becky's comments. Now, are you ready?
I am ready. I'm good to go.
Do you agree with all of us? Was that it?
No.
Okay.
Hell no. No, I'm kidding.
Okay.
All right. So everybody has. Some people like storytelling. Some people like the wrestling. Some people like everything together. One match that comes to mind is Hogan versus Rock, WrestleMania 18. That right there, Aaron mentioned everything. The promos were awesome. They told a story in the ring, and that's what you are trying to accomplish. Now, does AEW, they're more wrestling, but in some of the matches, they do have a storyline going on with certain wrestlers and whatnot. But WWE, they're more sports entertainment, so they're going to focus on the storytelling, and they're going to make sure you remember that story later down the road. Now, WWE recently, I can't think of anything that comes in mind, but Kevin Owens versus Jericho Festival of Friendship, that was something that was awesome. But then their match at, I want to say, WrestleMania 33,
because Goldberg came into play.
So it kind of
changed the whole course of what they had done.
It kind of fell flat, I want to say. And I don't know. There's just so many out there, and Becky Lynch, her getting punched in the face by Nia Jax back at Survivor Series, I want to say 2017 it was, or 2018, and that changed the landscape for Becky too. So it's like I said before, people, they're gonna choose to watch the storytelling, or they're just gonna choose to watch the wrestling, or they want a mixture of both. So
yeah, and it's funny because I see some people in the chat saying WWE storytelling sucks as a blanket statement, if that's what you feel comfortable in saying.
Right. Actually,
I'm not even going to go back to. I'm not even going to go back to the bloodline. I'm not. We'll exclude that here.
Okay. That's what I was just about to say.
But the Kofi story leading to WrestleMania and beating Daniel Bryan sucked. They can do good. Okay.
They can.
I was kind of against that. But
you were totally against that.
But I got it. I just thought that Kofi should have won earlier.
Right. And
I was just getting too picky, I think.
Like you said, lately WWE really hasn't done anything great except for Roman Reigns and the Bloodline that comes to mind. They had the whole Alexa Bliss and Bray Wyatt thing going on, but now they have, they released Bray Wyatt. So you think to yourself, how are they going to, change Alexa Bliss back into Alexa Bliss? Or are they just going to one day just drop the character? Oh, she's, regular Alexa Bliss again, and nobody's going to, Bray Wyatt kind of turned her, but now he's not there. So, how does that work, So they kind of put themselves in a corner with that storyline. So,
and, speaking of living rent-free in heads, you're tuning in to the NoDQ review and taking your time away from your family chatting to me. So who's living in whose head? Okay. Yeah. One of the most popular shows on NoDQ.com, by the way. So anyway, we're going to go back
3
around
years.
one more time because now I want to talk about these fans dividing WWE fans and AEW fans here. It's apples to oranges, people, right? Raw is on Monday nights against NFL football. I don't know what Dynamite's on against Wednesday nights, some other network shows or whatever. It's different. I notice when Raw goes up, Dynamite goes up. When Raw goes down, Dynamite goes down. Same with SmackDown. It's apples to oranges, people. Jargo, these fans, right? And you know, you see me go pro WWE because what I'm seeing like on social media, on Twitter, these AEW fans getting just like stepping over their bounds. Instead of enjoying their product, they want to create this better than WWE thing instead of just saying, hey, our product is great. And so this is why I want to bring this up. It's apples to oranges. What's wrong with some of these fans? I know I'm like pro WWE. It's kind of the troll sling that I do because of those AEW, I call them cultists, right? They want that animosity instead of just liking what they like. Jargo, there's no verses here. It's apples to oranges. Am I right?
You're right. But there is one thing that I keep hearing people say, and I hear you say it constantly.
Well, get ready. I'll defend myself.
Drives me insane because it's just not true anymore. WWE fans and people that watch Monday Night Football are not the same people. I feel like Monday Night Football has become completely irrelevant to the Monday Night Raw viewership numbers. And you know why that is, Virtue? Because they've lost so many goddamn casual viewers over the course of the years that, you know, they went to football and they never came back to pro wrestling. The WWE audience is the WWE audience. You see a fluctuation, a little bit up, a little bit down, regardless of who's playing football on Monday nights. I don't think there's much crossover amongst those audiences anymore.
There might be a little bit, though, just because, like, I know some, like, diehard wrestling fans that's into fantasy football, and they might want to watch the game for stat purposes. But, yeah, at the higher level of what it used to be at, I'll agree with you. No, we're talking maybe 100, 150,000, which, you know, in the small scheme of what ratings are today, that might be a chunk. But, yeah, you're right. From the grand scheme of all time, that's nothing.
Yeah, it's not like the 90s when you had, 10 million people watching wrestling on Monday nights, and then all of a sudden Monday Night Football comes back and the ratings had dropped by like 4 million viewers. Like it's a completely different environment.
But what if Dynamite? Okay, go ahead, finish.
The other thing, somebody had made the comment in the chat that, people are watching on their streaming services, they're watching on their smartphones. Well, the one thing that is very, very commonly misconstrued about this, right? If you are watching through a legal app, right? Like if you are watching the USA app and you are watching Monday Night Raw live, you count in the viewership. It's not just television. And if you're watching through a pirated stream, you also don't count because you're not available inside of the rating pool. The rating is a percentage of the viewers with access to the program that are watching it. If you're watching off a pirate streaming service, nobody cares. You don't count in the rating. And unless you're watching through a legal app, the TV broadcasters, USA, NBC, Universal, they don't give a shit if you like the program or not.
Who wants to follow that up? Yeah. Big G or Steve-O, one of you next.
Well, Big G froze. Oh, wait, there he is.
No, I'm right here. I didn't freeze. I was just like this.
And Big G, here's what, all right, you can go next. Here's what I was proposing. And again, I just want, WWE sports entertainment fans like what they like. Maybe they cross over a little bit. AEW fans like what they like. But there's this war in their minds going on, and you got to hate the other product. And you see me jumping in there on Twitter, right? You see respectful Virtue here on video.
Yeah.
Twitter's a whole nother ballgame. But what if Dynamite was not on USA, but on TNT, right? Because USA, TNT, on Monday nights, no Raw existed, and they had a 3-hour show with Monday Night Football. Would they be doing the 1.75 or what, million people that Raw just did, or would they still be in their niche that Dynamite's doing now on Wednesday? I think they'd still be in their niche. That's just where we're at right now. That's WWE has their their long-term older fans that still watch them, and AEW is still growing. But the thing is, you got to grow up at some point. So Big G, this versus thing's bullshit. Just what if Dynamite was on Monday nights? Where would that be?
Right.
It wouldn't be beating Raw. You think Dynamite Monday night would have more than Raw had this past Monday night with a higher demo?
Probably.
No.
So
have what it has on Wednesday nights.
So like I've said before, I'm gonna say it again.
Okay.
I do not care about ratings and demos and stuff like that.
But
I know
a lot of fans today do. That's
I know. And I see that on Twitter every single day. I'm thinking to myself, why are you guys bickering back and forth over wrestling and sports entertainment? If you like WWE, watch WWE. If you like AEW, watch AEW.
Because it's fun. Right. Back in the Attitude Era in the Monday night.
Okay, that was a different time then, Aaron. This is this generation.
Aaron, this is why I'm confused. Big G, hold on a second. I like all of it in the Attitude Era. I don't remember hating it and hate it. I know the companies
never did either.
Yeah.
WWE was so much good. Okay, WCW and WWE had something for everybody, just like AEW does in WWE. Now, I like both companies. Okay. I like both companies. WWE has something for me still. Raw, not as much, but there's still some stuff in there. This past Monday, honestly, the three things that caught my eye was the opening match, Shayna Baszler versus Nia Jax, and the main event. Everything else, I could not care less about. And honestly, to be truthful, I'm a big Steelers fan, football fan. If Monday Night Football was on and the Steelers are playing, I'm watching football. If there's a late night football game on Sunday night with the WWE pay-per-view, I'm watching football because I can go
football on Wednesday nights and Britt Baker was going to dominate the show for 2 hours and the Steelers were in a big game on a Wednesday night.
Well, you know what I would do? Okay, if that did happen, because we have back then it would be a little bit hard, but now that we got smartphones and stuff like that, I would have the football game on the TV and Dynamite on my phone.
Okay.
There you go.
Now, what about if it was Shayna Baszler versus Britt Baker? Would you have Dynamite on your TV, on your big screen TV?
All bets off. He'd be watching
that. All right, Big G. No, you did good there explaining it. I'm going to pass it over to Aaron now before Steve-O because there might be a super chat.
There's a lot of them I was trying to get to.
Steve-O, you'll get to this because we're almost done. Yeah, we're almost done.
All right. So first of all, this is this was a reference to what Virtue was talking about. He has an idea. Adrian does. He sent in €5. He says, Aaron, will you design a Virtue Apples and Oranges t-shirt?
I have 4, and I've been promoting the latest one. But, yeah, I'm always up for another one. But you guys have to make, Aaron, it has to be worth it. There has to be like a couple dozen people willing to buy it hot off the press.
Yeah, we got to think like how that would be designed exactly to give it a wrestling reference, or it could just be apples and oranges.
Well, we got time. I mean, there's a whole deal I got on Twitter right now. If you buy a debate shirt or a Troll Slayer shirt off of NoDQ.com/merch and you get it and you take a selfie with it, make sure you tag me. You have a chance to win from me. I would buy it and send it to you. The new AEW video game when it comes out, or if you're a WWE fan, down the road when the next 2K go. That's right, people. All you got to do is buy a Virtue shirt for $20. You have a chance to win a video game. Okay, back
all right. Now, Mr. Tito sent in a $5 super chat. Thank you, Tito. Not only does he have time to watch us, but he has time to super chat, so we appreciate that. He says, wrestling fans mostly watched both WWE and WCW shows back in the 1990s. WWE and AEW fans today are too tribal, like politics right now.
I agree. I agree with him.
Well, the internet was more primitive then, so you did not have as many people online, and you didn't have the outlets where everybody could get together and talk about stuff like you do now with Twitter. Steve-O?
Hey, yeah, I'd like to make a comment. In middle school, I was a teenager back then, and I remember.
I would hope you were a teenager in middle school.
I was 18 in there. No, just joking. But anyways, back in my teen years, we would have arguments in middle school. It was better between WCW and WWF, and even ECW would come into the equation. And if you had AOL message boards, people would do the same thing too. So there were people who watched both. I watched the first hour of Nitro, and then when Raw came on, I flipped over to there. So people are saying there's a war It was nothing like that back then.
I think the
That's
war
far
to
from the
me
truth.
was the companies compete
Yeah,
like that
really.
internally, but I thought fans
Right.
loved it. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, that was the thing back in the day. Fans just were able to treat wrestling like it was real in a sense. We all know wrestling's scripted, but with the Monday Night War with the competition, that was the one thing that was real, and fans could root for their team, so to speak, and get into it that way. And one thing I don't like about sports are the fans. Like, they get so worked up over their games, and they throw these.
I'm not one of those people who's gonna throw a chair at the TV if my team loses.
Yeah, but like sports fans, I see them like they get so bent out of shape. It's just a game, and like I feel
so you don't get out of bent of shape with wrestling. Or do you?
It's just a television show at the end of the day.
Legit fights happen amongst sports scene. You talk about the Sox and Cubs, but
and people riot, and people, throw trash at cars after games. Like, I saw it firsthand at a Dodgers game. I did go to a Dodgers game, and the people started throwing rocks and bottles at cars. Like, I mean, seriously,
yeah, that's Los Angeles. That's just like a Tuesday night in LA.
Jargo, this doesn't happen in New Japan, does it? All those fans are respectful.
They are. It's the culture there. They are polite. They come to the shows and they respect the art of professional wrestling.
Yeah, the pulverizing opinions inside of the United States have just been amplified by everything on social media. One of the most popular things that the media has been trying to tell us over the course of the last 4 or 5 years is the country has never been as divided as it is right now. And to which my response is, you should probably go look at when JFK got elected, because it was 52-48. JFK is getting assassinated. RFK is getting assassinated. Martin Luther King, Malcolm X, you got the Bay of Pigs, you got the Vietnam War. The country was pretty divided back then. We just didn't have freaking Twitter to bitch about it.
Yep.
Yeah.
All right. Let's get to a few other super chats here. We might have to backtrack a little bit. Psycho Jet Black sent in a $5 super chat. He says, bad booking and questionable gimmicks can make you not care about a wrestler no matter how good they are, like Ricochet, Karrion Kross, EC3, and Bray Wyatt.
Shayna Baszler to Big G. That's right, Big G.
That is very true. Big G, you would agree with that?
Yeah.
But why? If you like a wrestler and you know that they can't help that, wouldn't you still like them?
I said, she was still up there, but now that that she's free from Nia Jax and she can do whatever the hell she pleases and hopefully gets a title opportunity, then I never disliked her. It's just, I know it's kayfabe and fake booking and whatnot, but I've been invested in Shayna Baszler since NXT, and everybody knew, she's a former MMA, fighter. She's a badass. She can be a badass. And then, like I said, she came up to Raw, pretty much beat down Becky Lynch, beat everybody in the Elimination Chamber, and then lose to Becky Lynch at WrestleMania.
Was this before or after she became a vampire?
After.
That did her no favors.
Right. She did bite Becky Lynch's neck,
That was legit.
Did you think that was that a turn on, Big G?
No. No.
All right then.
And then you stick her with Nia Jax for almost a year and a half, and these nonsenseless women's tag titles, and then you decide, okay, yeah, we're done with Nia Jax and Shayna Baszler. All right, let's take the handcuffs off of her and see what she can do, and we'll see what she can do in the next couple months. Hopefully they book her strong, and I'm sure Charlotte's going to beat Alexa on Sunday, and hopefully we can get Charlotte versus Shayna Baszler later down the road. Or you know what? Screw that. Shayna needs to go to SmackDown at this point.
Yeah,
Shayna needs to go to SmackDown and have that rematch with Becky Lynch and beat Becky Lynch for that title. God damn it.
There you go. Yeah. Look forward to something.
I don't think that's going to happen, but anything is possible in this world. All right. Walter Cruz with a $5 super chat. This is an interesting question. Everyone's going to need to think about this one. Can you think of a bad story that ended with a great match. Probably a lot in recent years.
Yeah.
But I try to block out many of the bad matches not bad matches, but the bad stories from my memory. If anybody's got one, feel free to jump in. It's tough when you're put on the spot and you got to try to think about it. Like just a really bad storyline, but the match was actually really solid.
Well, I'll tie this to Big G right now. I think this is, this is like a pretty rough shot here, and things could always change. But I mean, hey, this whole Nia and Shayna Baszler pairing's pretty awful. But I mean, right now, like as of Monday, they made Shayna look like a total badass. So I mean, that's maybe like a precursor to something, maybe.
Here's a question for you guys. Did you guys think that the custody of Dominic storyline was good? I mean, I liked it, but I don't know if I would say it was a good storyline.
But the match was good.
The latter match was really good. So that's really the only thing I could think of, like right off the top of my head. I just remember like really, and probably a lot of stuff in WCW towards the end, like the Vince Russo period. Not so good storylines, but the matches.
Not so good matches either. I mean,
well, Booker T and Lance Storm had a really good match on a Nitro.
The things, so you can come up with one good match out of the last 3 years of Nitro. I mean,
Sting and DDP had a good match on a Nitro.
The final Nitro, Booker and Scott Steiner had a pretty good match.
Actually, there you go. Scott Steiner, his match with who did he face? Goldberg. Like, okay, that's the example I'm gonna go with.
There you go.
New Blood Rising, where Goldberg, wouldn't take the jackknife, and then it was Scott Steiner versus Goldberg at Fall Brawl. And they actually had a pretty darn good match at that Fall Brawl pay-per-view. So there you go. That's my answer.
I'll go with Toru Yano and Chase Owens battling over the KOPW trophy just recently. It was an awful story, and it ended with Yano almost stabbing Chase Owens. So I fully support that.
And Psycho Jet Black sent in a $2 super chat, says AEW is Android open while WWE is Apple isolated.
So that's supposed to be the apple to orange thing? I don't know, but whatever.
I have no idea.
Keep going. Get those super chats rolling.
As I sit here on a Mac, I suddenly feel very offended.
We're running over, and I'm hungry.
We're doing this StreamYard on an Apple computer. All right, let's
got more super chats.
I think. Oh no, wait a minute. Psycho Jet Black with the $2 super chat says Nia Jax will come back as a face and squash Shayna Baszler.
I don't think you could make Nia Jax a face because I don't think people will cheer her.
Yeah, I think they tried that once before and it did not go over.
Yeah, that didn't last too long. Just WrestleMania and done.
The real money, though, would be Shayna leaving WWE, since that's a cool thing to do when a contract's up. Go to AEW and maybe she can feud with Britt Baker, and then Big G can be in heaven.
That would be his dream.
Come on, making dreams come true.
That's not necessarily as far-fetched as one would think.
Yeah.
Oh, Michael Wayne says Roman Reigns and Brock Lesnar's storyline until Seth cashed in.
Yeah, that did kind of.
That's a good one.
That was a good match, though. Is that what he was referring to? The Roman and Brock at WrestleMania 31 was a good match. Before Seth
actually, it was a pretty good match. The crowd did not.
Roman was busted open.
But remember the build-up with the tug of war with the tag title?
Yep.
I mean, the world title? Yeah, I would say so. I'd say
bad story with a good match,
Yeah.
That's what happens when, Vince McMahon and Kevin Dunn and people are controlling their main event scene too much. Steve-O, did you have any more to add on the Versus thing, or did you get what you wanted in? Because I mean, apples to oranges, what if Dynamite was on Monday night?
Yeah, I know we've been kind of all over the place. I'll just keep this pretty short. The main shows I watch for wrestling, I watch Raw, SmackDown, NXT, Dynamite, and Rampage.
That's all the main ones.
Yeah, pretty much. I don't watch any of the side shows like 205 or
gotcha.
Or
the
Impact.
YouTube shows.
Pretty much.
What about Dark and Dark Elevation?
No, thank you. Like maybe sometimes if it plays, I'll watch it a little bit on autoplay on YouTube, but I don't know. Those WrestleMania size jobber shows, I'm like, no, thank you. I'm good on that. But I mean, I enjoy both shows. I thought Raw was solid this week. Dynamite was solid. if I were to say like I have a preference, I'd probably say I'm currently preferring the AEW product a little more these days, just because I don't know, not as much predictability, not an overabundance of rematches. That's stuff I enjoy. I mean,
Right.
we can go on all day about the flaws of both companies, but I enjoy both. I think if you haven't given AEW a shot already, give it a shot. It's definitely something that's enjoyable. WWE can put some good things out sometimes. That's pretty much all I have to say. I enjoy both, but I give the slight edge to AEW.
In your opinion, right?
Yes,
Just as
in
a
my
fan,
opinion.
for what you like. Okay. That's
Precisely.
where there's fans out there that instead of just realizing that's how they feel, they really think that it's right. And really, it's all subjective, right? It's all subjective. Aaron, any other chats? Any other thing you want to add?
Yeah, we do
there it
have
is.
a €5 super chat from Adrian. He says, every time Virtues mention apples and oranges, have a shot. It would be a great drinking game.
I just started that in the past couple of weeks on Twitter, so it's not like it's a new thing. It's not like I've been doing it forever.
Well, you've made it trendy now, so congratulations.
Let's go around and do our plugs. Oh yeah, earlier someone said it wasn't an apple and an orange; it was a peach and a cucumber. Yeah, that's not going to happen. Anyway, Jargo, welcome back again. You want to do your plugs, and we'll go around and we'll see if we can get out of here now. It's 9:15 my time.
No DQ after dark.
Find me across all social media platforms at Not Jargo, particularly on Twitter these days because Facebook pissed me off. So yeah, on Twitter at Not Jargo. I'm doing so many podcasts these days. I'd say just check the Twitter and I'll find a way to plug everything from there.
All right. Thanks for being on. Over to you, Steve-O.
Hey, Too Sweet Cosplay. Follow it on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and YouTube at Too Sweet Cosplay. And follow my own Twitter at SteveOJ on Twitter. I'm on there often, mostly browsing, but I'm always up for chats. If you have any comments, want to chat wrestling, or if you want to make fun of my microphone, that's totally cool too. But yeah, I'm always willing to chat, always glad to be on these videos. This was great discussion as always. Before you pass on to the next plug, I do have a suggestion for the oranges and apples shirts. 2 ideas.
Okay.
Yeah.
One, it could be an apple and orange ready to duke it out. You can do that. Or if you want to keep it like, in peace, you can have an apple and an orange holding hands together. That's my idea.
Look, Aaron, if you make it, as long as you put your NoDQ logo on it. I like how you did it on this one, by the way. You have it on the back. I like that because all my other shirts, it's all in the front. But yeah, you got to definitely make it a Virtue shirt. I mean, I'm whatever, it's my thing now. I'm going to own it. So thank you, Steve-O. Big G, over to you now.
Yeah, NoDQ.com/BigWalletG takes you to my Twitter page. And on there, you can find my link to my YouTube channel, The Gridiron Grapple. We'll be back next week. If you have TikTok, if you don't, oh well. You can follow me there at NoDQ, BigWalletG 1988. And that's it for me.
Thank you, Big G. And, of course, Aaron, I do see some NoDQ after dark.
All right. By the way, guys, Ric Flair had a little statement about Chris Kanyon. You can check that out over at NoDQ.com. Now, let's get into some NoDQ after dark. Alberto Gomez sent in a very generous $20 super chat. Much appreciated, Alberto. He says, people say we should have gotten this Roman Reigns in 2015, but the tribal chief gimmick wouldn't have worked because he wasn't accomplished now. 5 times main event and multiple time champion. The gimmick makes sense.
The shit that he went through makes this special. And I've been saying this for the last 5 years, but I mean, I really doubled down on it the night after he beat Undertaker at WrestleMania, and that place just was going bonkers, hating him. That this was where Roman needed to go. And, some people don't acknowledge me that I've been that way, and they just call me a fanboy. But it's fun to watch. And like I said, I want to see other people, other stars benefit from this. But it's the WWE way, and I just hope they can get a couple stars out of Roman. Like, I don't know. We'll see.
I'm with you on that. And they could have done it in 2017, but I do think Alberto made a great point that all the stuff that happened with Roman Reigns helped make this character work even more. And let's see. Adrian says, are you on OnlyFans, Big G?
No.
I miss when people were sending in the trivia questions to try and stump Big G or make him look like a fool. Those are the good old days. All right. We got one more here from Psycho Jet Black. He says, what brand of smartphones do you guys use? Virtue, you start us off.
Well, I have an iPhone 7 or 8 for work that my work pays for me. And then I have a Android, a Motorola. I'm not sure what kind it is. The Power from Verizon, because the battery is badass.
All right. And what do you got over there, Steve-O?
I got an iPhone 8. I'm looking to upgrade it soon. I comparing that earlier to somebody mentioning the iPhone versus Droid. Yeah, I definitely
Apples to oranges?
Apples to oranges. Yep. WWE versus AEW. Same level for sure.
All right. What about you, Big G?
I have a Note 20 Ultra.
Interesting.
Big
How do you
phone.
like that?
Big G, big hand, big phone.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Big
it's
phone.
like a tablet. But in his
All right.
hands, it looks like a normal phone.
Yeah.
All right. And Jargo, what do you got for us?
He's got a
12 Pro
BlackBerry.
Max.
Oh.
Yeah, I got the 11 Pro Max right here, which I use for the NoDQ streams other than this one. And Jeff's always like, can we do a StreamYard thing? And I'm like, well, I usually just do the streams right off of my phone on the YouTube app. This is the one where I'm on StreamYard on the actual Mac desktop computer.
Jargo.
Yeah.
BlackBerry used to be on top of the world, and they're basically, they don't do phones anymore. Could that be WWE?
Yeah.
Because they didn't
Absolutely.
adapt. Because they didn't adapt with the.
They didn't evolve. Yeah.
Yeah. All right, Aaron. Anything else? Can I close?
We're wrapped up. Let's go ahead and
All
get
right.
the plug.
Follow me on Twitter if you dare at NoDQ_virtue. Again, you'll see the tweet I put out there about if you pick up a Troll Slayer shirt or a Debate King shirt on NoDQ.com/merch. Once you get it, take a selfie with it and share it with me on Twitter, and you could win a AEW or WWE upcoming video game sent to you, paid for by me, from me, for Dr. Jargo, for Big G, for Steve-O, and for Aaron Rift. This has been the 5-person panel of the NoDQ review, number 156. Oh, and there's a Jeff Meacham thing out there as well. Aaron just put up. For Colin, for anybody else, Noah Foster, we thank you for listening and watching. And you know what? We're going to be back again and do this next time. Good night.
Good night, everyone.